exactly what is happening in Pakistan? Is Imran Khan on his way out? It's our top story tonight.
Political tamasha in Pakistan is at a peak as the country's crumbling economy starts taking a toll, landing the Prime Minister in a soup. Imran Khan is facing a no-confidence motion, but unlike earlier bouncers in his political career, the former cricketer is struggling to duck this one. This time, a united Pakistan opposition, including his former ally Fazlur Rahman, is gunning for the Pakistan Prime Minister.
अपने जमात को मनाऊंगा, फिर मैं सारे ऑपोजिशन जमातों के सामने ये मौक़िफ़ रखूंगा और इंशाअल्लाह ताला सारे ऑपोजिशन को भी मनाऊंगा। दुआ करके, फातिहा पढ़ के, अदम एतमाद का मोशन पेश नहीं करता, तो फिर मेरा तजवीज़ मेरा पार्टी को, ऑपोजिशन जमातों को ये होगा कि हम उस हॉल से नहीं उठेंगे और हम देखते हैं कि आपका OIC कॉन्फ्रेंस कैसे होता है।
Pakistan's National Assembly will take up a no-confidence motion against Imran Khan on Friday. Imran can retain his chair if the opposition fails to muster 172 votes in the lower house. It's not just his rivals who are miffed with Pakistan Prime Minister. At least 14 of ruling Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaaf MPs have jumped ship, blaming Imran for the spiraling inflation in the country. The Imran government has moved the Supreme Court against its own MPs for allying with the opposition, seeking a lifelong disqualification of the dissidents. Pakistan is witnessing double-digit inflation over the last 2 years. Imran's own remarks on his failure to control prices has added to his woes.
मैं 25 साल पहले जब सियासत शुरू की थी तो मैं इसलिए नहीं आया था कि टमाटर की क्या कीमत है और आलू की क्या कीमत है। मैं इसलिए आया था कि मैं पाकिस्तानियों को एक कौम बनाना चाहता था।
Pushed to the wall, Imran rushed to meet the Pakistan Army chief to tide over the crisis. His meeting with General Qamar Bajwa amid the political firestorm has raised many eyebrows. The army, which is the de facto ruler of Pakistan, so far has not taken a position in the political battle in the country. Bureau Report, India Today.
So let's raise the big questions. Are Imran Khan's days as Pakistan's Prime Minister numbered now? Where does the Pakistani army stand at this crucial moment? Is Pakistan headed for instability once again? That's the big talking point. And two guests from across the LOC in a way. Abdul Basit, former Pakistan High Commissioner to India, joins me from Islamabad. KC Singh, former diplomat, will join me in a moment from the Indian side. First, appreciate your joining us, Mr. Basit. I want to ask you straight away, the general feeling is that Imran Khan's days are numbered, and even his attack on the opponents and his support for India on Ukraine, Russia is because he is increasingly encircled. Would I be right to say Imran Khan's days could be numbered?
I do not really know, because both the government and the opposition, both sides appear very, very confident. So perhaps they know much more than you or I do. So let's, wait. It's just a matter of now a week or so. We'll wait and see. As you know, this is not something which should worry us, frankly speaking, because democracies do go through these phases. And if things are done according to the Constitution, and the opposition does have the right to table a no-confidence motion, so let's see what happens. I'm not yet ready to say that Prime Minister Imran Khan's days are numbered, because he appears to be very confident, and he believes that at the end of the day, his allied parties would not really ditch him.
But Mr. Basit, the fact is, let's look at objectively what's happening in Pakistan at the moment. You've got an economy which is in serious trouble, which is facing inflationary pressures, high debt. You've got a political system that seems to be broken between the opposition and the government. You've got Imran Khan, who's being accused now by his opponents of committing one mistake after the other, expressing solidarity with the Taliban, expressing his, even supporting Osama bin Laden at times. This is a prime minister today who is finding himself increasingly under pressure and therefore reacting, people are saying, in a manner that clearly suggests that he is not in control of the situation.
Yeah, he is under pressure. There is no doubt about that. But at the same time, there are sane people on both sides of the fence. And I'm hearing that there may be a possibility of some behind the scenes contact between the two sides, because what the opposition need is to have early elections, in my view. And if they can get it without this no confidence motion, that should be okay, because some people do apprehend that this face-off may lead to more crisis, more chaos in the country, more economic problems, more political instability. So there are sane people who are counseling to both sides that sanity must prevail, and if there is any possibility, any chance that the two sides can work out a modus vivendi, I think that would be great. But at the end of the day, whether Prime Minister Imran Khan loses or wins, my gut feeling is that at the end of the day, Pakistan may be going for early elections.
You're saying Pakistan, very important, you're saying Pakistan could be going in for an early election, but are you sensing therefore desperation on the part of Imran Khan? For example, here is Imran Khan praising India's foreign policy. A Pakistan Prime Minister saying India has got its foreign policy right on Russia, Ukraine, maintained a neutral stand, unlike the suggestions that he makes where he is accused or he is accusing his critics of pushing Pakistan towards the Western umbrella, which he says he's resisting. He was in Russia when the war was declared. Explain that to us as a former foreign secretary. Are you sensing that Imran Khan is so desperate today that he is now even forced to praise India in public rallies?
No, I think he is pursuing the same policies as of India, especially on Ukraine. We also abstained at the UNGA. We also abstained at the United Nations Human Rights Council. So there is no difference. But obviously, I have been critical of Pakistan's diplomacy in different ways, especially on Kashmir and on many other things. So the government has not been able to be very effective, in my view. And that is correct. So he has, made your day by praising India's foreign policy. But this is, something which Indian leaders have also been saying about Pakistani diplomats in the past. From Mr. Natwar Singh to Jaswant Singh, all of them have been praising Pakistani diplomats as well.
Sir, a Pakistani Prime Minister is very different. Let's be clear. A Pakistani Prime Minister at a public rally praises India, says India has set the right example. I mean, what is Imran Khan trying to achieve? I mean, has he in a way become, as I said, so desperate to corner the opposition that he has to choose to praise India now?
I think it was, in my view, he should not have done that in a public rally. I would be very honest with you to say this, because public rallies are not for such things. You do not really articulate your foreign policy in public rallies. So I have been advising against such, rhetoric in the public domain. So I think he is under pressure, no doubt, because many of his MNAs and PAs have defected him, and they are likely to vote against him in the no confidence motion. And this is quite serious from his perspective, because he thought that he has been able to gel a good team, but that is indeed not the case. And his own team members are defecting him, deserting him. So that one can understand from his perspective that he is definitely under.
Let me bring in KC Singh at this moment. Former diplomat and someone who's tracked Imran Khan's politics closely. KC Singh, are you seeing this to be the last stand of Imran? He seems to be under increasing pressure. The army seems to have lost confidence in him. The opposition is ganging up for him. He's losing his own, many of his lawmakers have rebelled. He's now threatening that next week there will be this big rally that he stages in Islamabad. Do you believe Imran's last stand in the next 1 week?
Well, he seems to be under pressure. This has been simmering for quite a few months. In fact, one stopped paying attention to it because this has been the talk for a long time, whether army has lost confidence in him or not. General Bajwa has till November 2022, which is when he completes his term. And it was being speculated whether he would get an extension, he could have a trade-off. You see, Afghanistan policy has been a problem because Taliban has hardly appeared very conscious of Pakistan having helped them. They are on a very independent streak. What I suspect also was a mistake on Imran Khan's part was to be seen with Putin in Moscow, just as the attack on Ukraine started. So which would have sent his friends in the West, particularly the Americans, become very, very cautious about what he was up to. So I think he overplayed his
So you
hand
think
by
he's
going to
losing his
Moscow.
friend? You think he's losing Western support as well as possibly the army's support?
I have a feeling he might have gone there thinking the Chinese were fully behind the Russians. But as it is now emerging, the Chinese are calibrating their response. They are not throwing their lot with the Russians. Imran Khan may have prematurely thought that this alliance, this axis of Pakistan, China, Russia is the emerging axis. And therefore, he'll benefit domestically or otherwise by it. But now as it is turning out, the Americans would certainly tighten his screws because they would find this really reprehensible. One of their former de facto allies, somebody they almost called an ally, ending up in Moscow as the attack began.
Let me
So
take
therefore, I think...
So let me take what you're saying to Abdul Basit. Mr. Basit, is he losing support critically of the army in particular? It's one thing for the opposition to gun for him. They've been gunning for him for the longest time. But is he losing the support of the army? And importantly, is he losing support in Western capitals as well? What's your sense?
I do not know, but as far as the army is concerned, I think they are playing neutral at the moment. They are not taking sides. But as far as the US is concerned, it has nothing to do with his visit to Moscow. As a matter of fact, President Biden refused to call him or engage with him. So this, kind of cold shoulder, which was shown by President Biden, has been there now for more than a year. So it has nothing to do with his visit to Moscow. But obviously, it does have repercussions at the end of the day. I'm not saying that it would not have its own implications. The West is watching us very closely, watching all the countries who have not supported or not condemned the Russian so-called military operation against Ukraine. But we will see how things really pan out. It is too early to say, but it is very clear that President Biden perhaps, does not feel, he's not feeling very comfortable with Pakistan's position on Ukraine and as well as our growing relations with China.
Can I though ask you, Mr. Basit, when Imran Khan came to power in 2018, there was this talk of Naya Pakistan, that he was going to bring together a new Pakistan. Has that dream is that dream over? The fact is that dream, many believe, is turning increasingly into a nightmare, particularly when they look at the moment at the state of the economy.
No, I think he has not been able to come up with the a good, effective team, I would say. But despite all these problems, he had been able to bring out a few unprecedented initiatives, like, Sehat Card, I think is one of his brilliant ideas. And people are benefiting from that around the country, barring the province of Sindh. Then he has come up with this Kamyab Nojawan, employment for the youth. And then Panaga, that is another initiative for the labor class. So I think overall, he has been able to reach out to the poor of the country. That is, that goes to his advantage, I think, and it will go to his advantage whenever he...
So is it that the old elite is the one which is still trying to sort of stop Imran? Are you saying that Imran Khan has tried to topple the old elite, the feudal inheritors of Pakistan, and that's why there is this backlash?
No, I think the opposition has been worried about these 2-3 initiatives of Prime Minister Imran Khan. And they do not want to give him more time in order to deliver at least on these 3 counts, because these are far-reaching initiatives. And I know the poor people are benefiting from these initiatives. So the opposition must be worried about these things.
KC Singh, how do you therefore see Imran Khan? The talk that he was going to transform Pakistan and build a Naya Pakistan, 4 years later, it appears, as even Mr. Basit, Abdul Basit admits, that the opposition is hemming him in. Is it because he tried to transform a feudal society, in your view? Or is it because he's got into conflicts now with far too many stakeholders in Pakistan?
You see, the two big stakeholders were PPP and PML-Nawaz, and I think he took on both of them. And that, I think, was a critical mistake, because you should have kept the doors open to them. In politics, you never burn your bridges entirely, so that if because in any case, his party didn't have a majority. He was depending on half a dozen other smaller parties supporting him to get his 172. So even if 12 MPs shift, members of National Assembly shift, he's in trouble, and that is what is happening. So he's gone to Supreme Court today. Now, in the Supreme Court, it's very interesting. The argument he's taking up is something like an anti-defection law to say that you should debar these people who are going, even though it's not strictly clear whether there's such a constitutional provision possible. They haven't voted yet. It's only an expectation that they may go against him. Even in India, the anti-defection law comes in only after your vote.
Right.
It doesn't come into play before your vote. So I think this jugglery is going on. He may be hoping that the Supreme Court delays their decision and therefore buys him time. And that's why his rally next Sunday. Tomorrow, day after, they are having an OIC conference of foreign ministers in Pakistan. So there's a distraction which is caused by that. They'll talk about Kashmir, we'll see. But essentially, he's made too many enemies domestically.
Right.
And there is probably coherence now possible between PPP and PML-N. And the army has been watching very carefully as his public image has got affected, that he has not delivered. Army has found that, it starts affecting them too. And there, I think Punjab comes in. And you look at Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, there was a ceasefire. So it seemed like Taliban in Afghanistan will deliver peace in Pakistan. And that has not happened. There was only a ceasefire, and then TTP has gone back to attacking. And Taliban are also not fully listening to Pakistan. They're doing their own thing. Nor has Pakistan been able to get recognition for the government there, other than from a handful of countries. So therefore, on the foreign policy side, I think he put all his eggs in the Chinese-Russian corner. He has really nothing. And here, India has kind of barricaded any possibility of relationship, saying zero tolerance. So he has nothing much to show on the foreign policy side. And if he thought he could ride the American boat and he could ride the Russian-Chinese boat, I think that end has come. The Americans are tired of it. They feel they've been betrayed all through. All the opinion in the House and the Congress is that Pakistan was two-timing them, and that's why they had this failure in Afghanistan. So then domestically as a problem, economy is not picked up. And globally, the economic situation is not good anywhere. There's inflation globally.
So let me leave it there, because clearly what we are going to see in the next week is a lot of turbulence, a lot of turmoil in Pakistan, and instability, chronic instability of a kind is never good for India. The last thing India wants to see at this particular moment is an unstable Pakistan in the neighborhood. Mr. Basit, for joining me there from Islamabad, KC Singh.
Thank you.
Appreciate both of you joining me here at the top of the news today. We'll see how the next week plays out in neighboring Pakistan.